Most people think marriage has changed because society changed. I don't think that's true. I think marriage changed because the people walking into it changed. Something has shifted quietly across cultures, across countries, across homes. For as long as anyone can remember, the picture of marriage looked the same. Before the sun came up, he was already dressed, briefcase in one hand, responsibility in the other. He carried the financial weight of the home, came back at the end of the day, and as far as the world was concerned, his job was done. Before anyone else woke up, breakfast was already on the table. School uniforms were ironed. She raised the children. The house somehow kept running. She held everything and everyone together and in place. Nobody questioned it. Nobody had to. That was simply what love was supposed to look like. But that little boy who grew up watching that picture eventually became a man. He fell in love, got married, and walked straight into a world his father never prepared him for. Not because his father failed him, but because his father couldn't prepare him for a world he had never lived in. Because the woman standing across from him is the altar. She has a career, she has ambitions, she has a vision for her life that goes beyond the four walls of any home. She was raised to dream, raised to build. She was raised to believe that her dreams mattered too. And he was never told that was coming. Nobody sat him down and said, the woman you're going to marry has been told her whole life that she doesn't have to live the way your mother did. And that gap between the marriage he imagined and the marriage he's actually living, that gap is where millions of couples silently fall apart. Not because they stopped loving each other, but because they were never given the same map. This video is about that gap. Here's something nobody warns you about before the wedding. You don't just marry a person, you marry a story. The home they grew up in, the things they watched, the things they absorbed, the things nobody ever said out loud, but everybody understood. He watched his father leave every morning and come back every evening, and the house was always running when he returned. He never stopped to ask how. It just was. She watched something different, or maybe she watched the same thing. But somewhere along the way, someone told her, you don't have to live like that. You could be more than what the women before you were allowed to be. So she didn't. She built herself. She grew. She became the woman she always believed she could become, not despite being a woman, but fully as one. And both of them walked into this marriage, completely convinced they understood what it was supposed to look like. Neither of them was trying to be difficult. They were simply being faithful to the only blueprint they'd ever known. Fast forward to a random Tuesday evening, nothing special about it, no big argument, no dramatic moment, just life, showing up the way it always does, unannounced, unbothered, unimpressed by how in love you are. They both just got home, same tired eyes, same heavy shoulders, same long day. The kitchen is empty, the sink is piled up. Somewhere in the other room, a child needs attention, and without anyone saying a word, a question fills the room. Who is supposed to deal with this? And underneath that question hides another one neither of them wants to ask. If we both carry the weight, what does it really mean to be a husband? And what does it really mean to be a wife? His eyes drift toward the kitchen, then toward his wife, then back again, because where he comes from, Love looked like provision. Everything else he had never been taught was his to carry, was someone else's responsibility. And this was never his corner to step into. She drops her handbag, closes her eyes, just for a second, because she already knows what comes next. She isn't just tired, she's tired of carrying responsibilities that nobody seems to notice. No shouting, no name calling, nothing dramatic enough to tell anyone about, but something small and important just cracked. And that's the part nobody talks about. Not the big betrayals, not the loud fights, the quiet ones. The ones that happen on a Tuesday over an empty kitchen because two people who genuinely love each other walked into the same marriage, carrying two completely different blueprints for building the same home, and neither of them realised they had never compared the drawings. Maybe the greatest challenge in modern marriage isn't that men and women have changed. Maybe it's that we're trying to build one home using two completely different blueprints, and nowhere does that become more obvious than when money enters the conversation. Here is the part most people skip over, because it's easier to keep score than to ask yourself honestly, what am I not seeing? A man can pay every bill in the house, keep the lights on, keep the fridge full, keep the roof from falling in, and still come home every evening to a wife who feels completely alone. Not because he doesn't love her, but because provision was the only language of love he was ever taught to speak, and she has been quietly desperate for a conversation he doesn't know he's supposed to be having. But here is where it gets uncomfortable, because this isn't only his blind spot. She carries something too, something she rarely names out loud. The weight of being strong for so long that she forgot how to let him in. The habit of doing everything herself, because somewhere along the way, asking for help started to feel like disappointment waiting to happen. So she stopped asking, and he stopped noticing. And the distance between them wasn't built in one dramatic moment. It was built slowly, quietly, one unspoken need at a time. This is the real crack in modern marriage. Not that he doesn't care, not that she asks for too much, but that both of them are carrying something heavy, and neither of them can fully see what the other one is holding. He looks at her and sees a woman who seems to have everything under control, so he assumes she doesn't need him. She looks at him and sees a man who doesn't seem affected, so she assumes he doesn't understand. Both of them are wrong, and both of them are lonely, not because love disappeared, but because assumptions quietly took its place inside the same home, sleeping in the same bed, living parallel lives that was supposed to be one. The hard truth isn't about who does more. It was never about who does more. It's about two people who spent so much time proving they could carry life alone that they forgot marriage was never supposed to be carried alone. They were supposed to be carrying it together. Now let's talk about the thing that nobody wants to bring up at the dinner table. What happens when she earns more? Not hypothetically, not in theory, in real life, in your real home, with your real bills and your real insecurities, and the version of yourself you thought you'd be by now. What happens then? Picture him for a moment. He's not a bad man. He works hard. He shows up. He tries. But somewhere between the wedding day and this particular Thursday morning, The numbers shifted. Her income grew. His stayed the same, or maybe his dropped, and now he sits across from the woman he loves, at a table she helped pay for, in a home they share, feeling like a guest in his own life. He doesn't say any of this out loud. Sometimes the deepest fears are the hardest to put into words, so instead he goes quiet, pulls back, becomes a version of himself that is harder to reach. She notices, she always notices, but she doesn't know what to do with it. Because she didn't ask for this. She just worked hard. She just showed up. She just became who she always believed she could be. And somehow that has become a problem. This is one of the most painful and least discussed tensions in modern marriage. Not infidelity, not abuse, just a number on a screen. A number that quietly rewrites how two people see themselves and each other. And here is what I want to say to both of them. To him, your value as a man was never stored in your bank account. Somewhere along the way, many men were taught that their value could be measured by what they earned. A man who is emotionally present, a man who is actively raising his children, a man who makes his wife feel safe, not just financially, but fully, is not less of a man because her salary is higher. He is exactly the kind of man the world desperately needs more of. And to her, carry your success with grace, not because you owe anyone an apology for it, but because the person sitting across from you is trying to unlearn something that was wired into him long before you met. Never use what you have as a weapon against the person you chose. Success inside a marriage should feel like sunshine, not shade. If your light is making your partner feel dark, the answer is not to dim yourself. The answer is to figure out why the two of you stop standing side by side. Her success is not his failure. His struggle is not her fault. And a marriage that understands that is already ahead of most. I want you to imagine something. Not a perfect marriage, not a fairy tale, just a real one. Two people, ordinary life, ordinary struggles. He comes home one evening and without anyone asking, without making it a statement, without turning it into a negotiation, he walks into the kitchen and starts cooking. She walks in behind him, drops her bag, looks at him for a moment, doesn't say anything, doesn't need to, because in that moment, something that had been quietly tight between them loosens, just slightly, just enough. Or imagine this, she's just been promoted, bigger role, bigger title, bigger salary. She comes home excited, but cautious, because somewhere along the way, she learned to manage her joy around him, to make it smaller, to present it carefully, like something that needed to be handled rather than celebrated. But this time, he's already opened something to celebrate. He pulls her close, and he means it. Not because he has stopped having hard days, not because the insecurity has completely disappeared, but because he made a choice to love her louder than his fear. These moments don't make the headlines. Nobody posts about them. Nobody gives you an award for choosing your marriage on a random Wednesday when everything in you wanted to retreat. But these are the moments that actually build something. Not the wedding, not the honeymoon, not the beautiful photos, an ordinary Wednesday, the kitchen, the quiet decision to show up one more time. The strongest marriages I have ever seen are not the ones without struggle. They are the ones where two people looked at the struggle and chose each other anyway. where he learned that being a man has always been about more than what he provides, where she learned that strength doesn't always mean carrying everything alone, where both of them slowly, imperfectly, sometimes frustratingly, learned to speak a language they were never taught together. So maybe the question we need to retire is, whose job is this? Because that question was always built on the assumption that marriage is a division of labour, a contract, a transaction. But the marriages that last, the ones that actually become something beautiful, were never built on a contract. They were built on a covenant, and a covenant doesn't ask, what's the minimum I'm required to do? It asks, what does the person I love need from me today? Some days that looks like paying the rent. Some days it looks like cooking dinner, without being asked, without being thanked, and doing it anyway. Some days it looks like sitting with someone in their silence when you have nothing to offer except your presence. And some days it looks like looking at the person across from you, the person you've argued with, misunderstood, disappointed, and been disappointed by, and choosing them again, quietly, without ceremony. The roles will shift, the paychecks will change, life will keep rewriting the plans you thought were permanent, but a great marriage protects something deeper. The way two people choose to see each other, because at the end of everything, a great marriage isn't built by a man proving he's the man, or a woman proving she doesn't need one. It's built by two people who looked at the blueprints they grew up with, held them side by side, saw that they didn't match, and made a decision. Let's not fight over whose blueprint is right. Let's stop defending them and build something neither of us has ever seen before, together. Maybe something has shifted, not because marriage became weaker, but because it is asking more of us than it ever asked of the generations before. And maybe that's not something to fear. Maybe it's an invitation to build something better.